We're going to have questions and answers about Spiritism like we do when we live stream on Mondays. Before we begin, let us have a short prayer. Dear Jesus, please open up our hearts and our minds so we can throttle in, we can analyze our pride and our selfishness so we can find a path to be more humble and loving and fraternal and charitable. We know it's not easy being a human here on earth, and please kindly lend us your assistance and your example and assistance from our guardian angels and other high spirits who are around us and familiar spirits in the spirit world. Open our hearts and minds to receive the love and dedication from others. Amen. So before I begin, if you're interested in Spiritism, you can see here the Spirits book. Type in Allan Kardec, ALLANKARDEC space PDF, and you'll find the Spirits book, the Medium's book, and the Gospel according to Spiritism, and Heaven and Hell and Genesis, all available in PDF form. The other thing you can do is you can download my book, Spiritism 101, The Third Revolution. If you go to nwspiritism.com, you can download it in PDF form for free. And it's also in French. Of course, it's also in Kindle, paperback, and in Audible format. So as we go on along here, feel free, please, to type in your comments in the comment section, and I'll take those as the highest priority. Until I get the first couple comments, though, I will go and take questions that have been asked before, and which I think has been very helpful, and a lot of people are asking these questions. And please, if you think of a question, go into one of these live streams, just ask a question. I get notified by YouTube when I get a comment, and I will copy the question down and put it on my list. Okay. The first question is a question of relations. Let me take that off. Oh, that didn't work. Now, we talked about Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is an advanced planet where there is advanced spirits who no longer need to atone for anything wrong. I believe it's probably a happy planet, which is a planet above the planet of regeneration. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I believe. I think it's a pretty high planet. Now, you can say, well, we've had flybys with Viking, etc., on Jupiter. There's no life on Jupiter. Yes, you're of course right in this dimension. But remember, we are a multi-dimension world in the physical world as well as multi-dimension in the spirit world. So therefore, there is life on other planets in our solar system, but not in this dimension. To us, Jupiter is what it is. The same thing as Mars is barren. Whereas in another dimension, what spirits have told us is that Mars has life, and then Earth has no life. And then the people of Mars look at Earth as the way we look at Mars. So this is how complex and compact this universe is. A dense, just block of data with everything connected and parameters everywhere. And we humans on Earth, as well as spirits, we are encapsulated logic with different levels of permissions and parameters depending on our spiritual ascension. That's why we want to work for our spiritual ascension, because the more we open up, the more just discovery we can make of this universe that's just limitless. Okay, so the question is, there's a question of relations between male and female in Jupiter, and if it is used for procreation, would there still be the same desire for relations as happens on Earth? And I believe, I don't know this for absolutely certain, but I believe, yes, it still is used for procreation. But then again, when people are born, they become mature much quicker. Like within a year, you're like 30 years old. Now that's another advanced planet. It's not what I know for sure on Jupiter, but that should give you an example. Now, the desire, I think, is less, because as you rise, just like as you become, it's really the same answer as when you are a spirit. People say, well, you still are there relations in the spirit world? The answer is yes. But as you go higher and higher, that becomes pushed down in your priority and in your desires, because there's other things more exciting. There's other things that just intellectually just excite you and just give you goosebumps, and just you can't wait to do that and to discover or be a part of a mission to earth and help other spirits, all things that push down these other desires that we have on earth, because on earth, quite frankly, we are in a planet of atonement, and we have some pretty hard trials. And we'd like to have at least a couple moments of pleasure, and when you're in a higher planet or a higher sphere in the spirit world, that's not as important. I hope that answers that question. Is the colony of No Solar an idea of life in Jupiter? And I think that the answer is yes, and I think that's a good description of the idea. I don't know if it's the ideal or if it's a blueprint, but it's the colony of No Solar. People work together. You don't have people gossiping about each other. No malicious gossip. There's no unemployment. You don't have to work. Everyone's taken care of because, well, first of all, you don't have to eat. You can absorb water, sunlight and drink the water, and you're fine. You don't need shelter because the temperature is always good, although you do have your own set of rooms or house. And so, yes, there's no crime. There is, whereas No Solar, they do have a fence or a wall around it. That's to defend against spirits from the lower zone coming up. But yes, so I mean, and that's what happens as you go to more and more advanced planets, because here we are on the planet of atonement, right? When you atone for your past wrongs you've done in your life. And that whole thing about atoning for what we've done wrong in our past life, that's why there's chaos on Earth, right? There are situations for everyone, me included, where we have to go through pretty drastic and depressing trials. So then we get that stimuli to make fundamental changes in our character, right? So we don't steal, we don't take advantage of other people, we're not cruel to our partners. When we split up, we don't do it horribly. We try and be as nice as possible. All these things we have to learn. And therefore, on a planet of atonement, you've got a lot, and people question it. How can God be so cruel? Because good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Well, they're all going through their own trials and tribulations. And some of the bad people are being allowed the opportunity to make mistakes so they can learn about that and pay for those past wrongs in another life. That's why you don't be envious of people who are rich and famous and who take advantage of that in not a nice manner, because they will have a lot to pay for. Unfortunately, God bless them all. Now, the ones who are rich and famous and keep trying to be nice to people and humble. I mean, and no one's perfect, of course. They have had a great victory. Okay. Question number 10, is Jesus the Spirit of truth, or is it like what we know as the Holy Spirit? So this is not known for absolutely certain, but what I have heard in YouTube videos by Spiritus in Portuguese in Brazil, and let me step back for a second. The question is, the Spirit of truth is what organized all the spirits talking to the different mediums by Allan Kardec. And Allan Kardec wrote a series of 1,019 questions. And in those 1,019 questions, which is great, that's why I would recommend everyone to read the Spirits book. It's very interesting. And it's all about life and reincarnation and what do you do as a spirit, what are the missions, and what happens to murderers and marriage and everything. And of course, as Jesus said, in fact, let me bring that up. Hold on one second. As Jesus said, let me bring up the scripture in the New Testament. Let me hide this one for a second. Okay, now this is what they talk about the Spirit of truth. This is in John chapter 14, verses 15 to 17. If you love me, keep my commands, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another consoler to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him, but you know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. And the other one is in the New Testament, John 14, verse 26. But the Consoler, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things, remind you of everything I have said to you. And so that's where the question comes from. Now, so this Spirit of truth is what I have heard is that people believe that that was Jesus who was organizing the spirits that were talking and messaging to different mediums. And of course, as Allan Kardec codified the spirits book, and of course, what he by codified means that he gave the same question to different mediums in different geographical locations and did not codify the answer unless the answers were the same or similar from different mediums. So the answer is people believe that Jesus was the organizer of this. Now, it may not have been. I do not know for certain. Okay, the next question. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section. Once we die, do we come to the realization of the goals not achieved on that life? Or is the knowledge after this life mainly according to one's spiritual progress once the veil is lifted? So I believe is if you pass over and you are going to any of the levels of heaven, you do come to the realization of what your plan was and what your idea of how your personal idea of how you perform according to the plan. And then of course they will have meetings with you and you'll go over your plan with other spirits. And mostly that plan is they'll just point out things and they'll make you not feel bad. And you'll see this a lot in near-death experiences where they will. I remember one guy's near-death experience. He kind of walked into this beautiful forest, but was around this table, and they just were talking to him. And he felt he knew these people, but he didn't know. They probably did actually know those people, but again, the veil was pretty, since he just had a near-death experience. And they went through some episodes in his life, and they decided that, yeah, you need to still be on the earth. You have more to learn. And no one points fingers because everyone's gone through this physical life and everyone has failed miserably and everyone has done horrible, embarrassing things. I absolutely included. And so no one's going to say, oh yeah, you're a complete idiot, because we've all been there and we've all spent time in the lower zones. Now, or you can also call that purgatory. There's no eternal hell. Now, do people who go into the lower zones, which is from the crust of the earth to the bottom levels of heaven, or into the dark abyss, which we call the purgatory, do they kind of go through what their own goals were and how they did? No, they're in this different area, and they until they rise up and ascend, they're not gonna know. They're still fooling themselves, thinking that the way they are is the way they should be, and which is still a bit how can I say this? Rebellious, and the fact that they are materialist and they don't want to be told what to do, which I can understand. We've all been there. Okay, next question. What is the difference in saying the Son of Man or the Son of God? And so, in my opinion, we call that, we say that about Jesus, right? Now, we can call Jesus the Son of Man because Jesus became a man. And we can call Jesus the Son of God because God is in all of us and he is the Spirit. And we are all can be considered sons and daughters of God. well, whatever. There's no gender when you go higher in the spirit world. So we're all beings of God. And you can also say Christ is the Father of man as well as the Son of man. Now, why is that? Well, Christ was here, and he was a member of the Council of Higher Spirits that helped actually form this solar system, and he helped form the Earth and the Moon and guided the evolution of the terra of Earth, the environment, the different ages, the different evolution of animals. Now, Darwin is somewhat correct. There is natural selection of within the process of how it's been set up, but there are teams of spirits that are assigned to a certain animal, a certain tree, and they'll have these teams that will make small changes in their DNA in order to evolve these plants and animals or whatever to where they would need, where the goal is. And that's how man was created, from animals, and they finally, changed a little bit until they were sophisticated enough and their brain was powerful enough to hold a free-willed soul. So we are, Jesus is our Father. He created us. It's like a person who is, let's say, a genius, and he creates this race of robots. And the robots saying, look at this guy, like, he's our father. But then the inventor says, oh, I want to see how the robots live. I want to be part of it. So he puts his mind, he doesn't die, right? He's still in that, wherever he is. He puts it into this environment where the robots live, but he puts his mind into the body of a robot. Well, now he is, right, the son of the robots, right? So that's how that works. So he's involved in everything. Jesus Christ is involved in everything, and then you could consider that God permeates everything. We're all connected by God. We're given here on earth, we're given at least our instinct and our conscience. Okay. Number 13, how do you know when the spiritual council has met? And I know that because that has been in the book On the Way to the Light by the Spirit Emmanuel. And what he had said in this, and this is, it was psychographed by the, let me see if I can bring up that cover, because that's a good book. And that was psychographed by Francisco C. Xavier. Okay, let me, where is that? Okay. Let me bring this up just 1 second. I'll put this on the screen. Oops, don't want to do that. I want people to see this, because this is just a wonderful book. Okay. Let's hide this. So here is the book. I want people to see this. To me, this book is just amazing. On the Way to the Light. And this book goes through how the earth was created and how the spirit world, under the leadership of Jesus Christ, has guided us from the very beginning, even before the human race and where we're going now. It talks about races from Capella coming down, going into the different races on Earth in order to kind of bring them up like the Egyptians and so forth. It talks about why the spirit world decided to say, "Oh, Rome, that's the end of you. You couldn't do it." It talks about all sorts of things. The beginning of the different civilizations, China, all sorts of interesting things. Lao Tzu, Confucius, Buddha. It's just amazing. So that's where I found out about this meeting of spiritual council. So it met at the beginning of the solar system, as they created this area of different campuses. It met in when Christ had decided to come to Earth, right? So it met at that little point, that point in time, just before, or I don't know how far just before is. It met then when he was coming to Earth, and this is when I say meet, I mean meet in the vicinity of our solar system. It meets all the time, in other places, but it specifically when I talk about it, it meets in our general location. And then it met in around 1969 after man went to the moon. Why? Because when men went to the moon, the council said, "Oh, here are these guys on Earth. They're advancing technologically, and they're not advancing spiritually. They're probably going to have a nuclear war and wipe everybody out. Let's do the same thing we did with Atlantis and Lemuria." And this is also a very small little couple sentences in this book. And he says, and a couple more besides that we don't know about. But he did say Atlantis and Lemuria were both civilizations cut short because the human race advanced technologically, but not spiritually. Now, in 1969, Jesus intervened and said, "Look, give me 50 years, and if they do not have nuclear war in 50 years, I will, we will carry on and become a planet of regeneration." And said, "Okay, well, July in 2020 or 2019. I'm sorry, 50 years plus 69. It was July. I can't remember when. In 69, men landed on the moon. We passed that without nuclear war. So therefore, the next phase will begin, and that is the phase of a planet of regeneration. And what we have been told is around 2057. Let's call it the mid of the 21st century. Is we will start having more elevated spirits here on Earth that look to the good than our primitive look to the kind of not more materialist spirits. And once you're over that 50%, you really start that path to regeneration. Now, that path of regeneration isn't a switch that clicks. Oh, okay, you're planning regeneration now. Everything's perfect. No, it's going to be a gradual cultural, societal, technological change that will come over the Earth. Now, things will be rapid, though. What Chico said, that aliens will come down. I think it will happen probably within 10 to 20 years from now, maybe sooner. Aliens will come down. We'll share technology, and we will have great strides in our technological advancements. Now, the part about the aliens is not in On the Way to the Light. But anyway, I think this book was written in 1954 or 1956. Just interesting book. I've read it 3 or 4 times. I'm going to read it again. I love this book. So, but I wanted to give that to you. Let's go back to the questions. So that is how I know the spiritual counsel met, is from that book, which I just showed you. And of course, I would recommend people to buy that book. Now, to find out where you can get that book, you can get that book on Amazon, but you can also go and click on the picture of Allan Kardec on my blog, nwspiritism.com, and it'll take you to the FEB website, which is the Federation of Brazilian Spiritists or something like that. And we call it Spiritus, and it's Spiritus, right, in Portuguese. That's why the E. And it's in English, and you can buy that book, and it's actually less expensive there. In fact, a lot of these spiritual books in English, Spiritus books, are less expensive there. And the books by Allan Kardec, if you want paperback, I would recommend you buying from there because they're more expensive on Amazon. Although if you have Prime, you may get shipping for free, so it may not be an issue. Okay, again, just reminding anybody, today's kind of unusual. I'm not getting any questions. Usually I get all sorts of questions, but I'm glad I have a list of questions from before. Okay, now, next question. When one hears of the second coming of Christ, does it mean that Jesus will reincarnate again and live among us? And the answer is no, it does not. It does not mean that to Spiritus. Spiritus Now, I know in the Christian religion, a lot of it hears from the Revelations, the second coming of Christ. And it has to do with the apocalypse and the dividing of spirits. So let's go back to the apocalypse first. So the apocalypse is happening, and will continue to happen, but it's in the spirit world. Now, why do I say that? We are now at the last phase, and probably a better way of saying it is we're at the preparation phase to begin to be a planet of regeneration. And that's when we're going to have more spirits who are tend to the light than are materialistic. And as part of being a planet generation, that means that eventually that the spirits that are on the earth and below, meaning spirits that have not risen to any levels of heaven, they will no longer be here. Right now, we walk through life. We have spirits all around us, and we have inspirations from good spirits, our guardian spirit, and we have inspirations from not so good spirits, mean-spirited spirits, right? Spirits who want to get us on the wrong path. Well, those people will be gone. And that's why they're fighting very hard not to allow us to become a planet of regeneration. Because it's just like, let's say you have a whole prison with all the hierarchy of the prisoners and the big bosses of the prison, and they have to move to another prison. Well, they're just back with the peons, right? This is what's going to happen to these people. They're going to have to go back and into these lower zones and lower levels and work their way up. So I would say that is what that means. And so that is a part of the apocalypse. So the apocalypse is happening. Those spirits will then be taken to other planets and other lower zones and areas around them. So now, second coming of Christ. So Christ is in charge of our planet. He's with us. He's been with us since the beginning of the earth. He's always with us, and he is sending some of his ministers to come back with us again. And for what I've heard is that they are going to have Buddha and Socrates, the spirit Joanna de Angelis. Probably don't know. Many people don't know her, but she's psychograph. Actually, she's a spirit that helped Valdo Franco psychograph many books. So we're going to have a lot of wonderful high-level spirits back with us, and I'm really excited for Socrates and Buddha. I mean, that'd be really interesting to have those two here. So, but Jesus, what I've heard is he will not reincarnate and live among us again, because when we pass over, he's there. He's in charge of the heaven around the earth. He's in charge of other planets too, but he will be part of that. So it's not necessary that he comes to lead us, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, we have a question here. Let's take this down. So from Grabielli's, how do you know that you're hearing and communicating with the real spirit versus you're just crazy and having auditory hallucinations? And that's a good question, and I think it's probably different for everyone. But I would say is the main thing is most probably most of those things that come through your mind, that if you think you're actually hearing voices, not just thoughts, right? I'm talking about hearing voices. They probably are spirits. And if you think you're crazy because you're hearing them, they're not nice spirits. They're spirits that are trying to distract you. For some reason, they're trying to obsess you. They're trying to take you off your path. All those things that's where we have to learn. That's where you have to learn to meditate and pray for help. The spirit world under Jesus Christ will send spirits to help you combat those spirits who do not mean you well. But the onus is on you. You have to pray and meditate and learn to say, okay, to filter everything through your conscience. If something violates what you think your conscience says, then you should do something, then you should try to ignore it and filter it out. That's one of the reasons we're on Earth, is to filter out these ideas and these, bad messages. So you're not crazy. And now there is, of course, always a possibility of auditory hallucinations. In fact, I went through many years of hearing music, and then all of a sudden it stopped. So that does happen. And so that's a hard one. I mean, I can't give you a definite answer. I think everyone's going to have to figure that out by themselves. But if you're hearing like tinnitus, right? Buzz and noises or music or something like that, that's one thing. But if you're hearing, like threatening things, or, go rob that bank, or just like really crazy ideas, that's probably a spirit that's trying to take you off the wrong path. That's my opinion. I think that everyone should know themselves, and also don't hesitate to seek professional help too. And Spiritism always says that, go with what medicine knows now. And in fact, in Brazil, there are Spiritus hospitals that will give you regular therapy sessions, and as well as medication if you need it. But then they'll also have mediums meetings where they will analyze, okay, who's around you, who's trying to communicate with you. And they've had great progress with addicts, and curing addiction to alcohol and drugs and so forth with this. And because a lot of addicts, they are encouraged by spirits around them saying, yeah, keep drinking or keep doing this, because they want to feel that, and they try to they try to rationalize and talk to the spirit, say, please don't do that, you're harming this person. Okay, let's go back to the questions. Before I do that, let me get to where. Okay, let's go here. Oh, hold on 1 second. Showing stream. Okay. The next question is, do you meet your guardian angel in heaven? Well, the answer is not necessarily. So we think of our guardian angel as being an angel that exists in heaven and only helps us when we're in the physical world. And that is a little bit off. That's true. That part is true. But that guardian angel, that mentor of ours, will help us even when we're in the spirit world. And so some people meet their guardian angel in their physical body. I've heard people say that, right? Hey, I know who my guardian angel is. And some people meet their guardian angel in the spirit world. Other people, I've read one account of this spirit who's like in the 10th level of heaven, spent many, many incarnations, never met his guardian angel till one day he was like on a mountain range in this high level of heaven. And his guardian angel said, and he looked across the mountains, and there was this guy, and he's like, just knew that was his guardian angel. And he says, come on over here. He goes, well, I can't. That level's too high. He goes, no, I'll help you. And he made this like bridge of cloud, right? And he goes, don't worry, you can walk on it. Just come over here. And the spirit was saying, he goes, I just felt the urge to take a walk up that mountain and sit on that ledge. But I now know that I was inspired to do that by my guardian angel. So even this high spirit, to just think about us here on earth, even this high spirit act on an urge that he did not know come from a higher spirit, higher than him. So think of us, how we're inspired. We just do things thinking, oh, that was my idea. Well, no. And not all the time, but I'm just saying, and what the spirits have told us, that most of the inspirations for the genius inventions, etc., came from spirits, like Thomas Edison. I'm sure he was inspired a lot by spirits. Albert Einstein. And in fact, what in the medium's book they say is that these people who are geniuses really have this heightened perception of listening to spiritual advice. They may not know it is, but they have that heightened perception of being inspired by spirits. So this guy met his guardian angel, and his guardian angel said, "Yeah, he goes, I've been connected to you for many times, but this is the first time I thought we could meet." And then the guardian angel took him, and they walked back to his place, kind of arm in arm, and talked about things. And he just felt so comforted and loved by his guardian angel. And he goes, "Don't worry, I'll always be with you." And so it's so, yes, sometimes you meet in heaven, sometimes you meet when you're in your physical body, and sometimes you don't meet in heaven for a long, long time. So I'm not sure. It's a good question. I think eventually you always will. You'll know who that is, but it may take a while. So now the next question, another good question, is how do you communicate with your guardian angel? And that is very interesting, because what I want to say is when you pray and meditate, all your prayers, and even if you're just concentrating and you want something, you're not consciously praying, still the spirit world will interpret that as a pleading, and it will be analyzed and sent to where it should be going. Now, but if it concerns your guardian angel and you're really like meditating and praying to your guardian angel, you have an open connection constantly wherever that guardian angel is. The guardian angel could be on Jupiter. You'll have that constant connection with your guardian angel. It's like a cell phone, and you have a dedicated, or like a red line, right, where they show you in the White House versus the Kremlin. You pick up that phone, it dials right to that location. Well, this is the way it works with your guardian angel. Your guardian angel doesn't have to be next to you. So this is what they say, is your guardian angel can look at the universal database, and he can look at your plan, and he can see, oh, okay, yeah, a week from now, there's going to be some really crazy stuff happening to this person. I better be next to them. But otherwise, they can be in another galaxy, for all I know. But your communication is instantaneous, right? They will know what's going on. But sometimes if severe trials are going through, they'll want to be there, and they will try and help and inspire you, even if they're far away, inspire you in your trials and tribulation. They can also ask other spirits around you to help you, and that happens all the time too. Plus, you've got your family and your friends and extended family in the spirit world. They're pulling for you most likely too, and they'll be around you, and they'll try and help you also. So it's through thought and prayer and meditate, and you'll be inspired. And so what to do to really communicate with the guardian angel, just say, please, pray and meditate. I always tell people, when you meditate or pray, try to pick the same time, the same day of the week, or multiple days of the week. And then you can establish a connection, and that person will be used to that regular connection. You can kind of go through the questions and problems you have in your life at the present time, and then you can meditate, and then it may not come to you right there, but you'll be inspired as events unfold, and maybe at the right time as to what you should, or a lot of times should not do. Okay, next. Who is your guardian angel? Well, I would say, the guardian angel is a superior spirit who's gone through multiple lives. Your guardian angel is most probably, is not a lower spirit. It's got to be either a high spirit within the heavens of Earth, or in other advanced planets. So your guardian angel it's like your mentor at work. It's a lot more experience and knowledge and wisdom than you, but they have an expressed interest in you. And then one spirit says, don't think that spirits don't cry and they don't laugh, because they do both. And they'll cry when they're when the person they're supposed to be the guardian angel for makes some really bad decisions, and it makes them sad. They still love you, just like when your kid writes on the wall when they're 4 or whatever. It's like, oh, um, but they'll still love you, but they'll shed tears, like, oh no, they did that. Imagine the guardian angel of someone like Castro or Mao, who killed, Mao killed millions, Stalin killed millions, and imagine the guardian angel for that person. Oh, they're like, oh, okay, this poor person is going to have a lot to atone for in other planets, because they probably won't come back on Earth. Okay, we have a question here. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Okay, here's the question from Grabielli. Can you have a best friend relationship with a spirit attachment or a spirit not in the physical realm while you are in the physical realm? That is good. Yes, absolutely you can. There are instances where husbands or wives who've passed over before will come back and try to help the family or help the spouse, and they will either have a mediumistic ability, or they'll go to mediums meetings and they will talk to that spirit. That spirit will talk to them. There was this one book that I actually read through on Tuesdays a while ago, where this man died, and he loved. I mean, he was not a nice person. He was very intelligent and so forth. But then he knew the errors of his ways, but he didn't become softer and more loving until he met this wonderful woman. Of course, right after he met her, it was like, then he died, and he just regretted it so much. But she reached out to him and said, no, look, we're still attached. I'm still going to help you. And she was in physical form. So it's kind of weird, because this is kind of the opposite of usually what happens. And she was this really wonderful woman who talked to mediums and talked to him through it. And she gave him support and love so he could cast off his thirst for revenge for the people that did him wrong, and made him forgive people, and really turn to the good. So there is that side, and then there's the opposite of spirits can try to talk to you all the time and really be a good spirit and be a good influence on you and give you good advice if you know to take it. So absolutely, that is entirely possible. Of course, before I end that subject, is just like, that's why anyone who talks to spirits or has anything to do with spirits, read the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, because low spirits can try to masquerade as high spirits, and they'll say, oh, I'm St. Francis of Assisi, or I'm Socrates, or I'm this or that. And I've had spirits try to do that. But you really have to analyze what they're saying, because they will give them away, right? Just as Allan Kardec said, when the spirit passes over from a human to a spirit, they don't all of a sudden become this enlightened being. They're still the same person, and they still have this limited knowledge. And so there's a lot of spirits out there that'll try and inspire you and talk to you and pretend they're something. But as you keep talking to them and you see that their ideas are not uplifting, they're more materialistic, then you'll know that they're not on that level. In fact, as I tell people, if you talk to a medium and the medium's saying that the spirit's saying, you're a really great person, you're doing all these great things, and they're really buttering you up, that's pretty well that's false. Because when I've heard other people talk, communicate with higher spirits, or higher spirits communicated to my wife and I, it's always that, okay, this is what you need to be doing. This is what you need to improve on. It's not lovey-dovey. It's like your teacher you had in school that you didn't like when you were a kid, but then afterwards you thought, oh, I learned a lot from that teacher. So it's they'll support you and stuff, and they'll say, and it's all the times they'll have a sense of humor, but it's not going to be all candy, right? So I'm just let you know that, be wary of that. Okay, here's another question. What would happen mentally and spiritually if you are a boy spirit in a girl body in reality and you get a succubus or you start getting sexually pleasured as a boy by a girl spirit? Well, I mean, so that can happen. Um, you can, if you are a, if you were, so first of all, if you're a spirit, you can be either gender, but you can be that your predilection is you wanted to be a masculine male spirit. But for some reason, they put you in as a female on Earth. And usually usually, not always, there are exceptions. You could have asked for that. But usually that is because as a male spirit, you were very mean and harmful to the opposite sex. And therefore, okay, they'll say, you need to learn that they have feelings too, and so you don't take advantage of them and treat them horribly. So that's the first part of the equation. Then you have other spirits around you that want to keep you low and keep you ignorant, and they want to have pleasure because that's the level they're at. They're not in heaven, and they will, you can be, they can, by their dominating will, they can do with you if they have that dominating will, and you can transform yourself into a male or female spirit, and they can have pleasure with you as a male or female spirit. In fact, in the very lower zones, a very dominant, this is in the dark abyss, a dominant spirit will have whole armies, and he'll make some spirits be in the shape of horses, so they'll have a cavalry for armies. And then some mean spirits I've read where they'll make them in the shape of a couch or a chair so they can sit in. I mean, it's, when thought is action, there's a lot that can happen. So that's why if that happens to anybody, is you need to meditate and pray and try to say, look, I'm not going to let myself be pulled down to that level and go, because when you sleep, you go to the spirit world, right? You go to the other side. And that will, and you can go where, your desires are. This, I know with this one medium, with Andre Louise was part of a team in the series of books, starting with No Solar, Sacred by Chico Xavier. And you'll see No Solar right there. NOSSOLAR. He wanted to meet a medium after he fell asleep. This guy's done a great job. But then he and another spirit went to the medium's room and saw him having relations with two women spirits. And the guy was all embarrassed, and the woman goes, "Get out of here, we're busy," right? And it just shows you there's all kind in the spirit world. And the guy was embarrassed, and his Honor Louis friend said, "Yeah, we won't bother him tonight," right? So we all have that predilection. That can happen to anybody, because those two women spirits were on a lower level, and they wanted to have fun with this guy. They may have known him in a previous life, and this medium has tried to make himself a little bit higher, but he's been, sometimes he gets distracted by those pleasures. That happens. Andre Luis's father was stuck in the lower zone, and because he had affairs with two women, and his mother was a higher level than Andre Luis, but his father was stuck in the lower zone because these two women wanted to keep him for themselves. And of course, then his mother's idea to help his Andre Luis's father and her husband out of this conundrum was she would reincarnate and have her and her husband would reincarnate. They would marry, and they would have these two women as their daughters. So it just shows you how these things can go around in the spirit world. It's very interesting. Okay, next question. How do you tell the difference between a spiritual vision and an hallucination that is not real? That has to be up to you. That's a tough question, and it's also a tough question when people are mediums, because mediums will go through years thinking that the voices they've heard in their head are just figments of their imagination. They go, no, it's not real. And in fact, the spirit world says that's one of the challenges of mediums on earth is they will deny the fact that we're trying to communicate with them. The Reverend G. Val Owen said he spent 10 years thinking that I'm hearing these voices, they're not real. And then finally, he started accumulating evidence that they were real. So, what I think people need to do is that when you have a vision or whatever it is write it down. Write down what you think the meaning is. And then for each one of those, reread them every so often and say, did that come true? It's like dreams. It's the same advice I give for writing down dreams. Because when I have, and you can tell if you have just a nonsense dreams, you can forget it. But I write down dreams, and then I look at them every so often and go, oh, that's what that means. That's happened. And now I understand the connection. And so I think the same way for anyone who has visions and hallucinations, if you don't know what it is, write them down and then see as time goes on. It could be, to me, sometimes it took like 3 years and some people longer, right? Like you see prophets like Clint Clement, 10 years in advance that he had vision. Chico Xavier knew things way in advance. Then just keep them up and ask. And then you'll start being able, once you spot the ones that came true versus the ones that are just way out there, you'll be able to gauge for yourself, are they real or are they just a figment of your imagination? But you have to analyze each one and be very careful with that. But yeah, you got to put the work in, and it's going to take time. Another question. Can you sometimes just want to feel and do things and be with people in the lower zone in the spirit world and go there for a while, then go back to a higher zone and feel and do higher zone things? Absolutely. People do that all the time. In fact, that's just what I was talking about, that medium that where Andrea Louise came in there and saw him with those two women. He was going to be invited to a meeting into one of the levels of heaven. But he made a decision to stay in the lower zone, because the lower zone is from the crust of the earth to the beginning of heaven, and the dark abysses below that. So that's exactly what this medium did. He made a decision that tonight I'm going to do this. And so he did not go into a higher zone. And I believe that what you just said, that some people go to the lower zone, some people go to the higher zone, it happens quite frequently. It's not like we're not saints. We're on a planet of atonement. We're here for a reason. And sometimes it's good for us to be in the lower. Sometimes you can go to the lower zone and try and talk to people and help them out of the lower zone. And a lot of spirits will do that. I know that I went through this for quite a while. I went through where I had dreams of I was just going to different college campuses and different office buildings. And, I just would go into this room and hear people talking like, what? I don't understand. And then I would, then I have to walk across a hallway or across a courtyard and go to another one. And a medium said, that's just you going to different meetings in the spirit world. And so that was probably something into the higher zones. I don't remember anything important in it, but as the spirits tell us, when you go to these things, you'll remember them when you need to remember them, and they'll inspire you when you need to be inspired. So absolutely, you can do both. There's no question about it. Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, I would like to encourage people to read, not only the Spirits book, as I did at the beginning, but to read my book, The Spirit Realm. Spiritism has revealed the reality of our existence. I go through from all the other previous books and all the other spiritist literature, I should say. And this one, most of my books, I really try to give you all the references and the footnotes and everything. And this book, there's less of that. I just talk about what the spirit realm is, what the physical realm is, what the physical realm is, who is Jesus, what is the spirit, how you ascend, what's your future. Kind of gives you the overview of everything that I've been able to glean from Spiritist literature, medium meetings, and other talks, anything that I could bring together to give you kind of an idea of really where you are, right? Because I think that's important. Oh, wait, I got another question that I want to answer here. Are there such things as spirit traps, or can people in the physical realm trap a person's spirit? What can that spirit do to get free? Can someone control your spirit and make them do things? And so the answer to that is the spirits can dominate wheels, right? They can dominate you. And so you can, so a spirit trap is if someone is dominating your will, right? And making your mind bend to theirs. Uh, so if you, this is why the mediums book is really good, because it tells you about these things. You can get out of it yourselves most of the time by prayer and meditation, study spiritism, etc. Or you need to ask for help, and other spirits from higher levels will come and help you. So yes, someone can control your spirit and make you do things if their will dominates yours. And to get free, you have to study and meditate and learn to filter out stupid ideas and things you don't want, and ask for help. It's not easy. It's not meant to be easy, because you're here on this earth probably to go through these trials and tribulations. Then it says, are your books in libraries? Not that I know of. I would say that one is Alan Kardec's book. You can get a PDF. And then, of course, my Spiritism 101 book. Go to my site, nwspiritism.com, and download that in English. But right now, I have them on Kindle, which hopefully, like in my Spirits book, the Spiritism 101 is 99 cents. So I try to make that inexpensive. I also have them on Audible. And if people on this one would like, I have some ability to give some free Audible books. So if you would like, go to my site, NW let me bring this up, nwspiritism.com. Send me an go to the About Me section and say, hey, I'd like to have one of your Audible books, because I do have some free offers left, and I will be happy to email you a link to one of my Audible books, and you can listen to it in Audible format. So, and I'm saying this on December 13th, 2021. So, who knows how long this will be up on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute. But yeah, but go ahead and ask me for that. And if I have any left, I will make sure I can get you one of the Audible books. Okay. Well, thank you for being with me tonight. Thank you for all the questions. And again, we're here on Monday for questions and answers. And if you have questions you want to ask later, put them in the comments section. I will write them down and answer them in the next book, the next live stream, I should say. God bless.